Hello, my name is Caitlin Barker, and this is my Persuasive Speech, and this is my audience.
Maggie. Okay.
Did you know that roughly half of Europe is multilingual? In comparison, only about 20% of people in the United States speak another language. Schools in Europe often require learning a second language as a requirement to graduate. In comparison, very few schools in the United States require learning a second language. I am here to talk to you about multilingualism, which is being able to speak another language fluently, or perhaps two or three. Learning another language should be required by American schools. I actually took Spanish for about 7 years. I was very lucky in that my elementary school had vocabulary classes and then put us in more difficult immersed classes once we got to middle school. One of my biggest regrets of my college career was actually not continuing my Spanish education. Learning a second or third language is vastly important. It improves education, memory, and diversity. So moving on to education, according to a study conducted by Michigan State University, bilingual students in Texas performed significantly better than their non-bilingual counterparts. Their test scores were repeatedly higher in all areas. Bilingualism also increases literacy. This study was conducted by Ellen Bialystok, and it compared more than 100 6-year-old monolingual and bilingual children around the world. There was a marked difference in how the children understood language. While bilingual children may not have had quite as large a vocabulary as their monolingual counterparts, they vastly outperformed them in the metalinguistic area, which is like the structure of literacy, which is a very important component of all languages. It's about how the language flows and how it's set up and how it comes across. During another study conducted by Ellen Bialystok and Michelle Martin-Ree, bilingual preschoolers also outperformed their monolingual counterparts. So this is just not seen in high school and older students. This is seen across from babies as young as 17 months. According to Yujit Bashari of the New York Times, the collective evidence from a number of such studies suggests that bilingual experience improves the brain's so-called executive function. This part of your brain is kind of like a command system that directs your attentions toward processes like planning, solving problems, performing other various tasks like making lists and multitasking. And today I have for you a chart that is it's a comparison of test scores. So as you can see, the dark boxes are the bilingual students and the monolingual students are this light gray. So you can see we have a very large percentage of the bilingual students in the high percentile compared to the monolingual students. And this is seen both in the medium and high quarter. So moving on to memory. Bilingualism improves part of the working memory, which is part of your short-term memory. This is used as multitasking, as I mentioned before. Bilingualism has also been proved to allow speakers to focus better. In a test conducted by Northwestern University, bilingual students were able to ignore the background noise and focus on the voice compared to monolingual students. This test was set up so they were taken into a room, they put on headphones, and on the first trial, there was no background noise, it was just a voice. And then the next round, there was significant background noises. The monolingual students were not able to focus as well as the bilingual or multilingual students, which this is very important in the classroom. So it allows the students to block out other noise and focus on what is happening in front of them. Multilingualism also delays dementia and Alzheimer's. In a study conducted by Fergus Craik and Ellen Bialystok and Morris Friedman, multilingual patients were diagnosed on average 4 years later. So because of their multilingual knowledge, their brain was able to keep on functioning and delay that onset. The onset was present much later in them. Bilingualism and multilingualism is also important in that it promotes diversity. Learning another language allows a student to become immersed in another culture. I experienced this in my high school Spanish classes. We were not allowed to have any sort of English literature. We could only have books written in Spanish. If it was kind of like a free day, we could only watch television in Spanish and shows in Spanish. So it allowed us to understand a different culture and understand like references and the structure of how the language is spoken in a much deeper level. Students can also see things from a different perspective, which I kind of just touched on. Like you're experiencing another person's culture through their language. Teaching students a second language also fosters understanding on a cultural level. It promotes acceptance in school as well as the community. A quote from Anatolia Soros of the University of Edinburgh states, "Many parents fear their language is an obstacle, a problem, and if they abandon it, their child will integrate better. We tell them they're not doing their child a favor by giving up their language." So having that language spoken in that student school is extremely important. It makes them feel like they're a part of the community and that they are part of the whole of this school system. So today I've talked to you about multi and bilingualism. Bilingualism is important. It is important to learn another language in school for several reasons. It's been proven that bilingual, multilingual students have better test scores, which is very important in the education system of today. It also improves their focus in their brain, and it also promotes cultural diversity in the school system. Thank you, and I hope you consider teaching your child another language.
What's up?